Thomas Green's heart raced as he stepped off the shuttle onto Nexus Prime. The alien girl's piercing gaze etched in his memory. He'd come to Galactic Academy to prove humanity's worth, not to fall for a telepathic, purple-skinned Ventaxian. Yet here he was, captivated by Theros from the moment their eyes met during orientation. The year was 2157, and Earth's first interstellar university had just opened its doors on this neutral planet. Thomas, a 22-year-old human prodigy in xenobiology, found himself part of the inaugural class. The campus buzzed with a diverse array of alien species, their varied forms and colors, a stark reminder of humanity's recent arrival on the galactic stage. As Thomas navigated the crowded halls, he couldn't help but notice the sideways glances and whispered comments from some of the more advanced races. The Zithrians, in particular, made no effort to hide their disdain for humans, openly mocking them as inferior beings. Thomas clenched his jaw, determined to prove them wrong. The Academy's strict anti-discrimination policies mandated mixed-species project teams, a fact Thomas was grateful for when he found himself assigned to the same xenobiology research group as Theros. Their task? To decode a mysterious alien artifact discovered on a distant moon, believed to hold the key to preventing an impending cosmic disaster threatening multiple civilizations. As they began their work, Thomas quickly realized the challenges that lay ahead. Theros, like most Ventaxians, rarely interacted with other species due to her race's isolationist policies. Her struggles with human social cues and scientific methodologies threatened to derail their project before it even began. Undeterred, Thomas threw himself into developing a unique communication system. He combined verbal and nonverbal cues, creating a bridge between human and Ventaxian thought processes. It was painstaking work, but slowly, Thomas began to see progress. Complex human concepts that once baffled Theros became clearer, and their teamwork improved. As they delved deeper into the artifact's mysteries, Thomas and Theros uncovered something unexpected. Evidence of an ancient conflict between humans and Ventaxians. This revelation shook them both to their cores, forcing Thomas to question everything he thought he knew about human history and challenging Theros' deeply ingrained beliefs about her own culture. Their growing collaboration didn't go unnoticed. Human and Ventaxian authorities separately warned Thomas and Theros about becoming too close to a potential enemy species. But with the fate of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance, they pushed forward, driven by the urgent need to unlock the artifact's secrets. As days turned into weeks, Thomas found himself increasingly drawn to Theros. Her initial cold demeanor gave way to a curiosity that matched his own. He noticed her watching him intently as he worked through complex problems, her telepathic abilities picking up on the nuances of his thought processes. For her part, Theros found herself fascinated by Thomas's problem-solving abilities and his capacity for empathy, despite lacking telepathic powers. It was a trait she hadn't expected in a species the Ventaxians had long considered primitive. As they made breakthrough after breakthrough, surpassing the progress of other research teams, Thomas realized that their partnership was more than just academically successful. Something was changing in the way Theros looked at him, in the way her telepathic aura seemed to reach out to him. Little did Thomas know that his ability to understand and connect with Theros was awakening feelings in her that no other being ever had. As they raced against time to prevent cosmic catastrophe, the seeds of an impossible love were taking root, challenging the very foundations of their respective societies. Thomas's heart skipped a beat as he caught sight of Theros across the crowded lecture hall. Her violet skin seemed to shimmer under the harsh academy lighting, her telepathic aura pulsing with an intensity that made his skin tingle. He forced himself to look away, focusing on the holographic display at the front of the room. Professor Xandor, a 7-limbed Arcturian, was outlining the semester's upcoming events. As part of our commitment to fostering interspecies cooperation, we'll be holding a series of academic competitions, the professor's translator chirped. All students are encouraged to participate. A low murmur rippled through the room. Thomas's gaze was drawn to a group of Zithrians near the front, their scaled heads bent together in hushed conversation. At their center sat Krasitor, his amber eyes narrowed in contempt as he glanced back at the human section. As the lecture ended, Thomas made his way towards Theros, weaving through the crowd of diverse alien species. Before he could reach her, a hand clamped down on his shoulder. He turned to find Krastor looming over him, flanked by two other Zethrians. "Excited for the competitions, human?" Krastor sneered, his universal translator barely containing the disdain in his voice. "Perhaps you'd like a demonstration of true technological superiority." With a flourish, Krastor produced a small device from his pocket. It hummed to life, projecting a complex holographic schematic that rotated slowly in the air between them. "Zithrian nanotech," he boasted. "Far beyond your primitive understanding, I'm sure." Thomas felt a familiar anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. "Impressive," he said evenly, "but I wouldn't count us out just yet." Krastor's scales rippled in what Thomas had learned was Zithrian laughter. "Bold words. We'll see how they hold up when you're faced with real challenges." As the Zithrians sauntered away, Thomas felt a gentle brush against his mind. Theros had made her way to his side. "Their arrogance blinds them," she said softly, her telepathic voice a soothing balm to his agitation. Thomas nodded, his purpose hardening. "Then it's time we opened their eyes." Over the next few weeks, Thomas threw himself into organizing a human team for the upcoming competitions. Late nights were spent in the Academy's labs, poring over technical manuals and running simulations. He recruited the brightest minds among the human students, each bringing their own unique skills and perspectives. The day of the first competition arrived, and tension hung heavy in the air of the Academy's main auditorium. Representatives from various species filled the stands, including a contingent of stern-faced human military officers Thomas didn't recognize. The challenge was revealed. Teams would have to repair a malfunctioning environmental control system for a simulated space station. As the Zithrian team confidently strode to their station, Thomas caught Krastor's smug grin. "Remember," Thomas addressed his team, "we may not have the most advanced tech, but we have something they don't. Adaptability. Let's show them what humans can do." The simulation began, and both teams sprang into action. The Zethrians immediately deployed an array of sleek devices, their hands flying over holographic interfaces. In contrast, Thomas's team took a different approach. "Sarah, bypass the main power relay," Thomas called out. "Miguel, see if you can jury-rig a filtration system using the emergency supplies." As the minutes ticked by, it became clear that the Zithrians' reliance on their advanced technology was becoming a hindrance. Their complex solutions were ill-suited to the limited resources of the simulated station. Thomas's team, however, was thriving. They repurposed everyday items, creating makeshift tools and ingenious workarounds. When the final buzzer sounded, the human team's patchwork solution had restored 98% of the station's functionality, compared to the Zithrians' 76%. The auditorium erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds, cheers, clicks, and telepathic pulses of approval. Thomas caught sight of Theros in the stands, her usually stoic face split in a wide smile. Even some of the alien faculty members nodded in grudging respect. Krastor's face was a mask of shocked disbelief as the results were announced. He stormed off the stage, shoving past Thomas with a hissed, "This isn't over, human." As the excitement died down, Thomas felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find himself face to face with a stern-looking human man in a crisp military uniform. "Thomas Green, I'm Admiral Hernandez," the man said, his voice low. "We need to talk, privately." Thomas followed the Admiral to an empty classroom, his mind racing. Once inside, Hernandez's demeanor changed, his eyes scanning the room suspiciously. "I'll be blunt, son," he said. "Your work with the Ventaxian girl, it's raising eyebrows back on Earth. We can't afford to share too much with potential rivals." Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. "Sir, with all due respect, our collaboration is crucial for..." "For what?" Hernandez cut him off. "What exactly have you two discovered?" Thomas hesitated, the weight of his and Theros' recent breakthrough heavy on his conscience. The artifact, the coordinates, the ancient space station, all of it danced on the tip of his tongue. But something held him back. "Nothing concrete yet, sir," he lied, hating himself for it, "just promising leads." Hernandez studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Keep it that way," he said, "and remember where your loyalties lie." As Thomas left the classroom, his mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He needed to find Theros, to warn her, to plan their next move. But as he rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a woman he didn't recognize. "Ah, Thomas Green," she said, her eyes twinkling with interest. "I've been hoping to meet you. I'm Dr. Ilara Jensen, xenoarchaeologist. I hear you've made some fascinating discoveries recently." Thomas's guard instantly went up. "Nothing too exciting, Dr. Jensen," he said carefully. "Just standard research." Jensen's smile didn't waver. "Oh, I think we both know there's more to it than that," she said softly. "Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner? I have some theories about that artifact you've been studying that might interest you." Before Thomas could respond, he felt the familiar touch of Theros' mind against his. Her telepathic voice was urgent, tinged with fear. "Thomas," she projected, "we need to talk. Now. It's about the artifact and our people's history. Everything is changing." Caught between Jensen's knowing smile and Theros' psychic plea, Thomas realized that the game had changed. The search for the truth was becoming more dangerous and more vital than ever before. Thomas's mind raced as he processed Theros' urgent telepathic message. He turned to Dr. Jensen, his expression carefully neutral. "I appreciate the offer, Dr. Jensen, but I'm afraid I have a pressing matter to attend to. Perhaps we can reschedule?" Jensen's eyes narrowed slightly, but her smile remained fixed. "Of course, Mr. Green. I look forward to our future discussion." As Thomas hurried away, he could feel Jensen's gaze boring into his back. He pushed the encounter from his mind, focusing on finding Theros. He located her in a secluded corner of the Academy's arboretum, her violet skin a stark contrast to the lush green foliage. "Theros, what's wrong?" Thomas asked, his voice low. The Ventaxian's large almond-shaped eyes met his. "I've made a breakthrough in decoding the artifact's data," she said, her telepathic voice tinged with excitement and fear. "Thomas, it contains coordinates to an ancient space station hidden in the nearby nebula, a station that may hold the key to preventing the cosmic disaster we've been studying." Thomas's heart raced. This was bigger than anything they had imagined. "We need to act on this," he said, his mind already formulating plans. "But we can't do it alone." After a moment of hesitation, Thomas made a decision. "There's someone we should bring in on this. Dr. Ilara Jensen, a xenoarchaeologist. She might have insights we need." Theros' telepathic aura pulsed with uncertainty, but she nodded. "If you trust her, Thomas, then so do I." They found Dr. Jensen in her office, surrounded by holographic displays of alien artifacts. As Thomas and Theros explained their discovery and plans, Jensen's eyes widened with growing excitement. "This is extraordinary," she breathed, studying the data they presented. "A joint human-Ventaxian space station predating all known contact between our species? The implications are staggering." Jensen paused, considering. "I want in on this expedition, but on one condition. My research assistant, Alex Reeves, comes with us. His expertise could be invaluable." Thomas and Theros exchanged glances, then nodded in agreement. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to prepare for their unauthorized mission. They gathered supplies, modified a small spacecraft to accommodate both human and Ventaxian needs, and planned their covert departure. Thomas threw himself into the work, pushing aside the warnings from Admiral Hernandez and his own doubts. He designed an innovative life support system capable of seamlessly switching between different atmospheric compositions, a feat that drew admiring looks from both Jensen and Alex. As they worked, Thomas noticed Theros watching him intently. Her telepathic aura seemed to reach out to him more frequently, brushing against his mind with an unfamiliar warmth. He attributed it to the stress and excitement of their impending mission, unaware of the turmoil building within his Ventaxian friend. Theros found herself increasingly distracted by Thomas's presence. His quick mind, his resourcefulness, the way his eyes lit up when solving a complex problem, all of it stirred something deep within her. As her telepathic abilities strengthened, she began picking up fragments of Thomas's thoughts and emotions with startling clarity. The intensity of her own response both thrilled and terrified her. The night before their planned departure, disaster struck. Campus security implemented a sudden lockdown of all spacecraft and transportation systems. Thomas paced in their makeshift operations room, his mind racing. "We need to bypass the security measures," he said, turning to his team. "I have an idea, but it'll require all of us working together." Thomas outlined his plan, a daring combination of human technical skills and Ventaxian telepathic abilities. As they moved to implement it, Dr. Jensen pulled Thomas aside. "There's something else you should know," she said, her voice low. "I've uncovered additional information about that old Earth legend, the one about the human Ventaxian hybrid child. There's evidence suggesting their descendants might still exist, possessing unique abilities that combine the strengths of both species." Thomas's eyes widened. If that's true, they could be crucial in preventing the cosmic disaster. Jensen nodded grimly, "Which makes our mission all the more important." With restored dedication, the team put Thomas's plan into action. Theros used her telepathic abilities to confuse and misdirect security personnel, while Thomas and Alex worked to override the lockdown protocols. Dr. Jensen coordinated their efforts, her experience in covert archaeological digs proving unexpectedly useful. As they finally boarded their modified spacecraft, Thomas felt a surge of exhilaration. They were really doing this, but their elation was short-lived. A group of Zythrian students, led by a seething Krastor, burst into the hangar. "Stop them!" Krastor shouted, his scales rippling with fury. Thomas didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the nearest Zythrian, his body moving with a fluid grace that surprised even him. The hand-to-hand combat training from his pre-academy days came flooding back, each strike precise and effective. Beside him, Theros' eyes glowed with psychic energy. The Zythrians stumbled, their movements becoming uncoordinated as her telepathic assault confused their senses. The rest of the team scrambled aboard the spacecraft, Thomas and Theros backing in last as the entrance hatch sealed shut. Thomas threw himself into the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the controls. The spacecraft hummed to life, lifting off just as Krastor slammed against the hull, his frustrated roar muffled by the metal. As they broke through the Academy's atmospheric shield, alarms blared. A squadron of sleek military vessels appeared on their sensors, closing fast. "Human military ships," Thomas growled, recognizing the configurations. "Hernandez must have ordered them to intercept us." He gripped the controls tightly, his mind racing through possible escape routes. With a series of sharp maneuvers, Thomas sent their craft spinning and weaving between the pursuing ships. The team held on tight as G-forces pressed them into their seats, Thomas's piloting skills pushing the limits of their modified vessel. One by one, the military ships fell behind, unable to match Thomas's audacious flying. As the last pursuer faded from their sensors, the team let out a collective breath. "Setting course for the nebula," Thomas announced, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. As they entered the nebula's swirling gases, new challenges arose. Intense radiation battered their shields, while gravitational anomalies threatened to tear the ship apart. Thomas's innovative life support system was pushed to its limits, constantly adjusting to the changing conditions. "Theros," Thomas called out, his hands never leaving the controls. "Can you teach us some basic telepathic defense techniques? We don't know what we might encounter at that station." Theros nodded, moving to the center of the cabin. As she began instructing the humans in mental shielding, Thomas couldn't help but notice the newfound confidence in her bearing. Her earlier reticence seemed to have melted away, replaced by a fierce purpose that matched his own. Hours passed as they delved deeper into the nebula. Suddenly, their sensors lit up with an unknown energy signature, scrambling their readouts. "I can't get a clear reading," Alex reported, his fingers dancing over the science station's controls. Thomas's brow furrowed in concentration. He reached for the sensor calibration controls, making a series of rapid adjustments. Slowly, the interference cleared, revealing a massive structure looming before them. The ancient space station hung suspended in the heart of the nebula, its design unlike anything they had ever seen. Sleek lines melded with organic curves, suggesting a perfect fusion of human ingenuity and Ventaxian biotechnology. As Thomas maneuvered their craft towards a docking port, the team fell silent, awe and apprehension filling the cabin. They had made it this far, but the true challenges and the answers they sought lay waiting within the station's mysterious depths. Mysterious depths. As Thomas guided their craft towards a docking port, the station's sleek contours came into sharper focus. The team held their breath as the ship's docking mechanisms engaged with a satisfying thunk. "We're secure," Thomas announced, powering down the engines. "Let's suit up and—" His words were cut short by a sudden violent shudder that rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. "What's happening?" Dr. Jensen demanded, gripping her seat. Thomas's fingers flew over the controls. "The station's defense systems," he muttered, brow furrowed in concentration. "They've activated and they're targeting us." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a series of energy beams emanating from the station, probing their ship. "It's scanning us," Alex reported, analyzing the readouts. "Wait, it seems to be focusing on Theros." The Ventaxian's eyes widened. "Me? But why?" Thomas's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. The station must be operating on old protocols, he realized aloud. From before the human-Ventaxian alliance, it sees Theros as a threat. Without hesitation, Thomas unbuckled his harness and moved to a rarely used panel near the airlock. "I can bypass the main security protocols," he explained, prying open the panel to reveal a complex array of circuitry. "But I'll need to interface directly with the station's systems." As Thomas worked, his hands moving with practiced precision, the others watched in tense silence. Theros edged closer, her telepathic aura brushing against his mind in a gesture of support. Finally, with a triumphant grin, Thomas closed the panel. "That should do it," he announced. The warning lights on the control panel dimmed, and the ship's violent shaking subsided. "Impressive work," Dr. Jensen remarked, visibly relieved. With the immediate danger past, the team donned their protective suits and cycled through the airlock. They entered the station through a long cylindrical passageway that seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescence. The passage opened into a vast, dimly lit central chamber. Towering structures of unknown purpose loomed in the shadows, their surfaces a mesmerizing blend of metallic and organic components. "This technology," Alex breathed, his voice filled with awe. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen." Dr. Jensen nodded, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "A perfect fusion of human and Ventaxian engineering. Extraordinary." Thomas turned to the group. "We should split up to cover more ground. Dr. Jensen, you and Alex check out that area." He gestured to a section that resembled a research laboratory. "Theros and I will investigate what looks like a control center over there." As they separated, Thomas and Theros made their way through the alien landscape of the control center. Banks of dormant consoles lined the walls, their surfaces covered in a fine layer of dust. "Thomas, look," Theros called, pointing to a raised platform in the center of the room. A holographic interface flickered weakly above it. Cautiously, Thomas approached the platform. As he stepped onto it, the hologram suddenly flared to life, expanding to fill the room with a shimmering blue light. A figure materialized before them, a genderless, humanoid form composed of swirling data streams. "Greetings," the figure intoned, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. "I am Aria, the ancient repository of interstellar archives. How may I assist you, human?" Thomas blinked in surprise. You can understand us?" "Affirmative," Aria replied. "This station was designed to interface with human operators." Thomas noticed that Aria seemed to be pointedly ignoring Theros. He frowned, realizing the AI's outdated protocols extended beyond just the defense systems. "Aria," Thomas said carefully, "I'd like you to meet Theros. She's a Ventaxian, and she's here as our ally and friend." The AI's form flickered, as if processing this information. "Ventaxian presence detected. Threat assessment inconclusive." Thomas stepped forward, his voice firm but diplomatic. "Aria, a lot has changed since you were last active. Humans and Ventaxians are now allies. Theros is as much a part of this mission as I am. There was a long pause as Arya processed this information. Finally, the AI's form shifted, expanding to include both Thomas and Theros in its focus. Update accepted, Arya announced. Ventaxian ally status confirmed. How may I assist you both? Thomas and Theros exchanged relieved glances. Arya, Thomas began, can you tell us about the purpose of this station? The AI's form pulsed as it spoke. This station was created by the ancient human Ventaxian Alliance as a failsafe against cosmic threats. It houses technology capable of manipulating space-time to prevent catastrophic events. Theros leaned forward, her eyes wide. That's exactly what we need. How do we activate it? Arya's form dimmed slightly. Activation requires a unique genetic key, a combination of human and Ventaxian DNA. Without this key, the technology cannot be accessed. Thomas's mind reeled at the implications. Before he could question Arya further, his communicator crackled to life. Thomas, Dr. Jensen's excited voice came through. You need to see this. We found something incredible in the lab. As Thomas and Theros hurried to join their companions, Arya's holographic form followed, providing a ghostly illumination in the dim corridors. They found Dr. Jensen and Alex in a vast chamber filled with rows of sleek, cylindrical pods. Jensen waved them over to a control panel she'd managed to activate. Look at this, she said, pointing to a display. These are stasis pods containing preserved genetic samples. And not just any samples. Her voice lowered in awe. They're from the original human Ventaxian hybrid child mentioned in the legend. Thomas's breath caught in his throat. The legend? It's true. Alex nodded enthusiastically. Not only that, but these samples could be the key to activating the station's technology. As the implications of their discovery sank in, a new alert blared from their communicators. Alex quickly pulled up a holographic display, his face paling at what he saw. Multiple ships approaching, he reported grimly. I'm reading signatures matching Admiral Hernandez's fleet. And a Ventaxian scout ship? Thomas's mind raced, weighing their options. They had come too far to turn back now, but the approaching ships posed a serious threat. We need to buy ourselves some time, he decided, turning to his team. I have a plan, but I'll need all of you. As Thomas outlined his strategy, Theros closed her eyes, extending her telepathic senses towards the approaching vessels. I can sense their intentions, she reported, her voice strained with effort. The human ships are wary, but determined. The Ventaxian ship. They're curious, but also fearful. Thomas nodded, incorporating this information into his plan. All right, here's what we're going to do. As the team scrambled to implement Thomas's plan, Arya's voice cut through the tension. Warning, station power core destabilizing. Critical failure imminent. Thomas's head snapped up, locking eyes with Theros. They both realized the same thing. Their time was running out, and the fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance. With renewed drive, they turned back to their tasks, acutely aware that every second counted. The ancient station hummed with awakening energy, its long-dormant systems gradually coming to life under the team's frantic efforts. As Thomas worked to compose a message that could potentially change the course of interstellar relations, he couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The choices they made in the next few moments would ripple across the cosmos, affecting countless lives across multiple species. With a deep breath, Thomas prepared to broadcast their message to the approaching fleets. Whatever happened next, he knew that humanity's ingenuity and adaptability were about to face their greatest test yet. Thomas took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Theros's across the control room. We need to activate the station's technology, he said, his voice firm with dedication. And I think I know how. Theros tilted her head, curiosity gleaming in her eyes. How? Us, Thomas replied, gesturing between them. Arya said it requires a combination of human and Ventaxian DNA. We're the key. Dr. Jensen's eyes widened. That's brilliant, Thomas, but also incredibly risky. We don't know what effect it might have on you both. Thomas nodded, acknowledging the danger. We don't have a choice. Those ships are getting closer, and we're running out of time. He turned to Alex. Can you and Dr. Jensen monitor us from out here? Alex nodded, already moving to a nearby console. I think I can interface with the station's systems. We'll keep an eye on your vitals. Thomas and Theros made their way to a sealed chamber Aria had indicated. As the door hissed shut behind them, Thomas couldn't help but feel a twinge of apprehension. The chamber was small, dominated by a central pillar with two hand-shaped indentations. Thomas and Theros positioned themselves on either side, their palms hovering over the imprints. "Ready?" Thomas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Theros nodded, her antennae quivering slightly. "Ready?" They pressed their hands into the indentations simultaneously. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a surge of energy coursed through Thomas's body, causing him to gasp. He felt a presence in his mind, alien yet familiar. Theros. Their consciousnesses merged, memories and emotions flowing between them like a rushing river. Thomas saw flashes of Theros' childhood on Ventax, felt her fear and excitement upon first meeting humans. In turn, Theros experienced Thomas's rigorous military training, his drive to explore the unknown. Outside the chamber, Dr. Jensen and Alex watched in awe as the station hummed to life. Dormant systems flickered on, holographic displays materializing throughout the control room. "It's working," Alex breathed, his fingers flying over the console. "The station's power levels are rising exponentially." Suddenly, alarms blared. Alex's face paled as he read the incoming data. Multiple ships detected. It's Admiral Hernandez's fleet and a Ventaxian scout ship. Dr. Jensen's mind raced. "We need to buy more time. Alex, can you get me access to the station's communication array?" As Alex worked to grant her access, Dr. Jensen composed a message based on Thomas's earlier plan. Her fingers trembled slightly as she initiated the broadcast. "This is Dr. Samantha Jensen aboard the ancient human Ventaxian station," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We are not your enemies. This station holds the key to saving multiple civilizations from an impending cosmic disaster. We ask for your patience and cooperation as we work to activate its systems." The response was immediate and not encouraging. Both fleets demanded immediate surrender, their weapon systems powering up. Alex, his face set in purpose, turned to Dr. Jensen. "I think I can partially restore the station's defenses. It might buy us some more time, but it could also be seen as an act of aggression." Dr. Jensen hesitated for a split second before nodding. "Do it. We need to protect Thomas and Theros while they complete the activation." As Alex worked, the station's defensive systems flickered to life. A shimmering energy field enveloped the structure, causing the approaching ships to pull back. Inside the sealed chamber, Thomas and Theros remained oblivious to the unfolding drama. Their minds were one, working in perfect synchronization to decipher and activate the ancient technology. Suddenly, a pulse of energy erupted from the station, expanding outward in a massive sphere. The approaching ships found themselves caught in its field, their systems temporarily immobilized. Thomas and Theros emerged from the chamber, their eyes wide and unfocused. The psychic link between them remained active, creating an odd double vision effect as they took in their surroundings. "It worked," Thomas said, his voice overlapping with Theros's as they spoke in unison. "The station is fully operational." Aria's holographic form materialized before them. Activation complete, transmitting historical data to all vessels within range. As the AI sent out the information, confusion and debate erupted among the fleet commanders. The aggressive stance of both human and Ventaxian ships wavered as they processed the revelations about their shared history. Thomas and Theros stepped forward, their movements perfectly synchronized. They addressed both fleets simultaneously, their merged consciousness allowing them to communicate effectively with both species. "We stand before you as living proof of what humans and Ventaxians can achieve together," they said, their voices blending into one. "This station is not a weapon, but a tool for preservation and growth. We invite you to join us in using it to secure a future for all our peoples." Admiral Hernandez's face appeared on a holographic display, his expression a mix of awe and skepticism. "Thompson, what you've done here is unprecedented, but how can we trust that this power won't be misused?" As Thomas and Theros prepared to respond, alarms blared once again. Alex's face paled as he read the incoming data. "We've got intruders. Multiple Zithrian life signs detected throughout the station." Thomas's military training kicked in, merging with Theros's strategic thinking through their psychic link. "We need to form a joint team," they said, addressing both the human and Ventaxian forces. "This threat concerns us all." As they organized a response team, Krastor and his Zithrian infiltrators were already making their way through the station, sabotaging systems as they went. The delicate balance Thomas and his team had achieved was now under threat, with the fate of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance. Thomas led the hastily assembled human Ventaxian team through the station's corridors, his senses heightened by his connection with Theros. They moved as one, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with Krastor. The Zithrian leader's eyes widened in surprise at the sight of the united front before him. "It's over, Krastor," Thomas and Theros said in unison, their voices carrying the weight of two species. "Surrender now, and we can work together to face the true threat that's coming." Krastor's mandibles clicked in agitation. "You don't understand," he hissed. "The power in this station, it's too great for any one species to control. I've accessed the central database. With one command, I can release this information to every spacefaring race in the galaxy." Thomas felt a chill run down his spine, recognizing the catastrophic implications of such an action. As tension filled the air, he knew that their next moves would determine not just the fate of the station, but potentially the future of interstellar relations across the galaxy. Galaxy. Thomas's mind raced, processing the implications of Krastor's threat. He glanced at Theros, their psychic link allowing him to sense her rising alarm. In that instant, a plan crystallized in his thoughts. "Dr. Jensen Alex," he called out, his voice echoing through the station's comm system. "We need an electromagnetic pulse now. Target Krastor's position and disable his communication devices." As the human Ventaxian team kept their weapons trained on Krastor, Dr. Jensen's voice crackled over the comm. "Understood, Thomas. Configuring the EMP now. Stand by for activation in 3, 2, 1. A wave of invisible energy pulsed through the corridor. The lights flickered, and Thomas felt a tingling sensation across his skin. Krastor's eyes widened in shock as his handheld device sparked and went dark. "Now!" Thomas shouted, leading the charge forward. The joint security team moved with practiced efficiency, subduing Krastor's Zithrian accomplices. Thomas watched as Krastor fumbled with a small device on his wrist, panic evident in his alien features. "It's over," Thomas said, advancing on the Zithrian leader. Krastor snarled, pressing a final button on his personal teleporter. A shimmering field began to form around him, but instead of whisking him away, it solidified into a crackling energy barrier. The malfunctioning device trapped Krastor in a force field of his own making. With the immediate threat neutralized, Thomas turned to Theros. "We need to finish what we started. The station's full activation is our only chance to prevent the cosmic disaster." They raced back to the central control room, their movements in perfect sync. As they approached the main console, Thomas felt their psychic connection intensifying. Theros' thoughts flowed into his mind, bringing with them an intuitive understanding of the station's complex systems. "Aria," Thomas called out, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "Give us a status update on the cosmic anomaly." The AI's serene voice filled the room. "The quantum filament's trajectory remains unchanged. Impact with inhabited systems projected in T-47 minutes." Thomas nodded grimly. "Initiate the space-time manipulation protocol. Theros, I need you to focus on the psychic calibration while I handle the power distribution." As they worked, Thomas became acutely aware of the gazes fixed upon them. Admiral Hernandez watched from a holographic display, his expression a mix of awe and trepidation. The Ventaxian scout ship had moved closer, its sensors no doubt trained on the unfolding events. The station hummed with building energy. Holographic representations of space-time curved and shifted before their eyes. Thomas felt sweat beating on his forehead as he rerouted power from non-essential systems, pushing the ancient technology to its limits. Thomas, Theros's voice echoed in his mind. I can sense the filament. It's alive in a way, conscious. He nodded, understanding flowing through their link. Then let's communicate with it, guided away from the populated systems. Their merged consciousness reached out, touching the vast, alien intellect of the quantum filament. Thomas felt his perception expand, stretching across light years. Through Theros's psychic abilities, amplified by the station's technology, they began to nudge the cosmic entity onto a new path. Alarms blared as the power drain intensified. Warning, Arya announced. Primary systems experiencing critical overload. Thomas's hands moved in a blur, bypassing safety protocols and rerouting power through secondary conduits. He could feel the strain on the station's ancient infrastructure, pushing it to its absolute limits. Come on, he muttered through gritted teeth. Just a little more. With a final burst of energy, the quantum filament's trajectory shifted. Arya's voice cut through the tension. Recalculation complete. Quantum filament now on course for uninhabited space. Threat to populated systems averted. A collective sigh of relief filled the control room. As the psychic link between Thomas and Theros began to fade, they shared a moment of profound connection. Thomas felt the echoes of Theros's memories and emotions lingering in his mind, a glimpse into a truly alien perspective that left him forever changed. Admiral Hernandez's voice broke the silence. Thompson, I don't pretend to understand everything that just happened, but I know enough to recognize its significance. I'm proposing a joint research initiative to study this station and its technologies, with the Ventaxians' cooperation, of course. The Ventaxian scout ship captain, observing the proceedings, nodded slowly. We would be amenable to such an arrangement. The potential benefits to both our peoples are undeniable. As the implications of this historic moment began to sink in, Arya's voice cut through the growing optimism. Alert, station power core, experiencing severe instability. Critical failure imminent without immediate intervention. Thomas's eyes met Theros's, a silent understanding passing between them. The core, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of what they both knew must be done. We need to stabilize it manually. Dr. Jensen's face paled. Thomas, the radiation levels in the core chamber are off the charts. It's a suicide mission. We don't have a choice, Thomas replied, already moving towards the exit. If that core goes critical, it'll take the station and everyone on it with it. Theros fell into step beside him, her antennae quivering with persistence. I'm coming with you, she said, her tone brooking no argument. As they prepared to embark on their perilous mission, Thomas could feel the eyes of humans, Ventaxians, and even the captured Zithrians upon them. The fate of the station, and perhaps the future of interspecies cooperation, now rested on their shoulders. Thomas took a deep breath, exchanging a final glance with Theros before they stepped into the airlock leading to the station's core. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing them off from the relative safety of the control room and plunging them into the unknown dangers that lay ahead. The airlock cycled, and Thomas and Theros found themselves in a dimly lit maintenance tunnel. The air felt heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and metal. Radiation levels are increasing, Thomas said, checking the readout on his suit's wrist display. We need to move quickly. Theros nodded, her antenna twitching as she focused her telepathic senses. I can detect areas of higher radiation. Follow my lead. They moved through the narrow passageways, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. Thomas's mind raced, analyzing the station's layout and systems as they encountered them. At a junction, he spotted a malfunctioning power coupling. Hold on, he said, kneeling to examine it. With deft movements, he rerouted the power flow, bypassing the damaged section. The lights in the tunnel brightened, and a low hum filled the air as auxiliary systems came online. Theros watched him work, her large eyes reflecting the newfound illumination. Your technical skills are impressive, Thomas. You adapted to this alien technology remarkably fast. Thomas allowed himself a small smile. Thanks. It's a mix of training and intuition. Speaking of which, How are we looking on the radiation front? Theros closed her eyes, concentrating. There's a hot spot ahead. We should take the left fork to avoid it. As they progressed deeper into the station's core, the temperature rose noticeably. Sweat beaded on Thomas's forehead, and he could see moisture gathering on Theros's exoskeleton. Suddenly, a piercing alarm cut through the air. Red warning lights flashed along the walls, and a security barrier slammed down in front of them. "Damn," Thomas muttered. "The security system must be malfunctioning. It thinks we're intruders." He quickly located a nearby access terminal and set to work. His fingers flew over the alien interface, combining his knowledge of human systems with the insights he'd gained from his psychic link with Theros. Theros watched in fascination as Thomas navigated the complex alien code. "You're interfacing with Ventaxian and human systems simultaneously," she observed. "How is that possible?" Thomas's brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm not entirely sure. It's like I can see the underlying patterns, the commonalities between our technologies." With a final command, the security barrier retracted. "There. We should be clear now." As they entered the central chamber housing the power core, the full scale of their task became apparent. The core itself was a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with energy. Arcs of electricity danced across its surface, and the air crackled with potential. "Arya," Thomas called out, "what's the status of the core?" The AI's voice echoed through the chamber. "Core instability at critical levels. Exotic particle buildup detected. Containment failure imminent without immediate intervention." Thomas's mind raced, analyzing the problem. "The space-time manipulation must have caused this. We need to vent the particles safely." He turned to Theros. "I have an idea, but it's going to require perfect timing. Are you ready?" Theros nodded, her antennae quivering with anticipation. "I'm with you, Thomas." As they moved into position, Thomas felt their lingering psychic link intensify. Theros's thoughts flowed into his mind, clear and precise. They worked in perfect synchronization, adjusting power levels and recalibrating containment fields. "Now!" Thomas shouted, activating the particle venting sequence. A brilliant beam of energy erupted from the core, channeling the exotic particles through a series of conduits. Theros focused her telepathic abilities, guiding the particles' flow with uncanny precision. For a moment, it seemed they had succeeded. The core's pulsing stabilized, and the arcs of electricity subsided. Then, without warning, a massive power surge rocked the chamber. "Containment field breach!" Arya's voice rang out in alarm. Thomas saw the danger an instant before it happened. A concentrated burst of radiation erupted from the damaged section of the core, heading straight for Theros. Without hesitation, Thomas lunged forward, pushing Theros out of harm's way. The radiation struck him full force, overwhelming his suit's protective systems. Pain seared through his body, and he collapsed to the floor, his vision blurring. "Thomas!" Theros cried out, rushing to his side. She could see the radiation damage spreading across his body, his life force fading rapidly. In that moment, driven by a surge of emotion she couldn't fully comprehend, Theros reached out with her mind. She established a deep mental connection with Thomas, deeper than anything they had experienced before. Through this link, she began to channel her own life force into him, desperately trying to stabilize his condition. As their minds and bodies connected on this fundamental level, something extraordinary began to happen. Dormant genes in both their DNA structures began to activate, remnants of the ancient human Ventaxian hybrid experiments. Thomas gasped, his eyes flying open. He could feel his body changing, adapting. The pain receded, replaced by a strange tingling sensation that spread throughout his entire being. Beside him, Theros shuddered, undergoing her own transformation. Their minds, now inextricably linked, reached out to the station itself. The core responded to their combined mental commands, its energy output stabilizing and then increasing beyond its previous capacity. Arya's voice, when it came, held a note of awe that neither of them had heard before. "Detecting authorized hybrid DNA signatures. Initiating Protocol Omega." New holographic displays sprang to life around them, revealing previously hidden areas of the station and unlocking vast stores of information about the ancient human-Ventaxian alliance. As Thomas and Theros slowly rose to their feet, they marveled at the changes they had undergone. Thomas's skin now had a faint bluish tint, while Theros's exoskeleton showed subtle human-like characteristics. What happened to us?" Thomas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Theros's antennae twitched as she processed the new sensations flooding her mind. "I believe we've become something new, Thomas, a true fusion of our species." They turned their attention to the core, which now hummed with a steady, powerful energy. Through their enhanced connection to the station's systems, they could sense its increased efficiency and output. "We need to get back to the control room," Thomas said, his mind already racing with the implications of their discovery. "The others need to know what's happened." As they made their way back through the maintenance tunnels, they found themselves instinctively using their new abilities. Thomas could sense radiation levels without checking his suit's displays, while Theros found she could interface with human technology as easily as Ventaxian systems. Their journey was punctuated by moments of shared discovery and wonder. Each new revelation about their changed bodies and enhanced capabilities brought with it a deepening of their connection. As they approached the central control room, Thomas and Theros paused, sharing a look of understanding. They knew that what awaited them on the other side of that door would change everything, not just for them, but potentially for the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. Thomas took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Ready?" he asked, his hand hovering over the door control. Theros nodded, her newly transformed features set with drive. "Together," she said. The door slid open, revealing the anxious faces of their comrades and the holographic projections of fleet commanders. As Thomas and Theros stepped into view, a hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to the transformed pair, and the air crackled with the potential for a new era of interstellar cooperation, or conflict. Conflict. The room fell silent as the assembled group took in the sight of Thomas and Theros, their bodies visibly altered by their ordeal in the core chamber. Admiral Hernandez was the first to break the silence. "Thompson, what in God's name happened to you two?" Thomas opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, he felt a sudden influx of information flooding his mind. Data streams from the station's systems poured into his consciousness, and he processed them with startling speed and clarity. We've changed," Thomas said, his voice steady despite the overwhelming sensations. "The core's energy triggered dormant genes in our DNA. We're hybrids now, a fusion of human and Ventaxian." Theros's antennae twitched as she surveyed the room. With a slight gesture of her hand, a nearby console activated, its holographic display springing to life. "Our abilities have been enhanced," she explained, her voice carrying a new resonance. "We can interface directly with the station systems." The Ventaxian elders, who had transported from their scout ship during Thomas and Theros's absence, stepped forward. Their faces were a mix of awe and concern. "Theros," one of the elders spoke, his voice stern. "You must return with us immediately. We cannot allow this abomination to continue." Thomas felt a surge of protective instinct towards Theros, but before he could intervene, Admiral Hernandez spoke up. "Now wait just a minute," the Admiral said, his voice carrying the weight of the authority. "This station is a game-changer for humanity. We can't just walk away from it." The tension in the room ratcheted up a notch as human soldiers and Ventaxian guards eyed each other warily. In the corner, Dr. Jensen and Alex watched the proceedings with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing concern. Thomas, drawing on his diplomatic training and newly enhanced cognitive abilities, stepped into the center of the room. "Everyone, please," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "We have an unprecedented opportunity here. This station holds the key to advancements that could benefit all our species." With a thought, Thomas activated the main holographic display. Complex data projections filled the air, showing potential breakthroughs in energy production, space travel, and medical technology. "A joint governance council," Thomas proposed, his mind racing ahead of his words. representatives from humans, Ventaxians, and yes, even the Zithrians. We can work together, share the benefits, and usher in a new era of interstellar cooperation. Admiral Hernandez's eyebrows shot up. Thompson, are you suggesting we share this technology with alien species? The security implications alone are far outweighed by the potential benefits, Thomas interrupted, his enhanced mind allowing him to process and counter arguments at lightning speed. Admiral, imagine curing diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries, solving our energy crisis, expanding our presence in the galaxy, not through conflict, but cooperation. As Thomas spoke, the station itself seemed to respond to his and Theros's presence. Dormant consoles throughout the control room flickered to life, revealing hidden chambers and previously unknown technologies. Arya's voice echoed through the room. Hybrid DNA signatures confirmed, granting full system access to authorized users, Thomas Thompson and Theros. The Ventaxian elders murmured among themselves, clearly unnerved by this turn of events. Theros stepped forward, her movements graceful despite her altered physiology. Honored elders, she said, her voice carrying a new depth of emotion. I understand your concerns, but I've seen firsthand the potential of this union. Our two species once worked together to create wonders. We can do so again. As discussions continued, Thomas and Theros worked in perfect synchronization to stabilize the station's newly awakened systems. Their abilities complemented each other seamlessly. Thomas's lightning-fast data processing and Theros's expanded telepathic reach, allowing them to navigate the complex alien technology with ease. Dr. Jensen approached them, her scientific curiosity overriding any lingering shock. This is remarkable, she said, studying the changes in their physiology. The genetic alterations seem to be continuing. Are you experiencing any discomfort? Thomas shook his head, marveling at the new sensations coursing through his body. Quite the opposite, actually. I feel more alive than ever. As they worked, Thomas and Theros made a startling discovery. The station housed a vast repository of scientific knowledge, including potential cures for numerous diseases and solutions to environmental problems plaguing multiple worlds. This revelation added a new urgency to their negotiations. Thomas turned to address the assembled leaders once more. What we've found here could save billions of lives across our civilizations, he said, his voice filled with conviction. But only if we work together. Admiral Hernandez, who had been deep in thought, finally spoke. Thompson, I've known you long enough to trust your judgment. If you say this is the best course of action, then you have my support. The Ventaxian elders conferred among themselves, their antennae twitching rapidly. Finally, their leader stepped forward. We will agree to participate in this joint council, he said, his voice heavy with reluctance. But we must insist on safeguards to prevent misuse of this technology. As the negotiations progressed, an unexpected voice joined the discussion. Krastor, the captured Zithrian saboteur, stepped forward. I have been wrong, Krastor said, his scaled face showing genuine remorse. Seeing this cooperation, I realize the error of our isolationist ways. If you will allow it, I offer Zithrian knowledge as a gesture of goodwill. This unexpected turn further strengthened the case for a multi-species alliance. As the various factions began to hammer out the details of their new partnership, Thomas and Theros found themselves at the center of a rapidly changing interstellar landscape. Their unique status as human Ventaxian hybrids, combined with their control over the station's technology, made them key figures in shaping the future of multiple civilizations. It was a responsibility that caused great concern on them, even as they continued to explore their deepening personal connection amidst the whirlwind of diplomacy and scientific discovery. As news of the events on the station began to spread, Thomas noticed a new alert on the long-range sensors. Ships from various previously unknown alien civilizations were appearing on the outskirts of the system, drawn by the promise of revolutionary technology and the unprecedented alliance forming between humans, Ventaxians, and Zithrians. Thomas exchanged a glance with Theros, both of them acutely aware that their actions in the coming days and weeks would shape the course of galactic history. The challenge ahead was immense, but as they stood side by side, their minds linked in ways that transcended normal human or Ventaxian experience. They felt ready to face whatever the future might hold. Hold. As Thomas and Theros processed the influx of data from the station's newly awakened systems, a flurry of activity erupted around them. Diplomats from various species huddled in intense discussions, while scientists pored over holographic displays of groundbreaking technologies. Admiral Hernandez approached the hybrid pair, his face a mix of concern and curiosity. "Thompson, Theros, I need you two to oversee the integration of our teams. Your unique abilities make you best suited for this task." Thomas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. As he turned to coordinate with a group of human and Ventaxian engineers, an alarm blared through the station's communication systems. Aria's voice echoed urgently. "Alert! Unauthorized access detected in multiple sectors. Security protocols compromised." Thomas and Theros shared a quick glance, their enhanced senses already picking up on subtle changes in the station's energy patterns. "We need to move now," Thomas said, his mind racing to process the flood of incoming data. As they sprinted towards the nearest compromised sector, Theros reached out telepathically to the station's systems. "Thomas, I'm detecting a group of humans using advanced cloaking technology. They've disabled several key junctions." They rounded a corner to find a group of diplomats trapped behind a force field, panic evident on their alien faces. Thomas's eyes darted around, quickly assessing the situation. With a thought, he interfaced with the nearby control panel, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface as he bypassed the sabotage systems. The force field flickered and died, allowing the trapped aliens to rush to safety. A Ventaxian elder approached Thomas, mandibles clicking in gratitude. "Thank you, Hybrid One. Your actions here today prove the wisdom of our alliance." Before Thomas could respond, Theros' voice cut through his mind. "Thomas, we have a bigger problem. I'm detecting weapon systems coming online. Whoever's behind this, they're not just after control of the station." Admiral Hernandez's voice crackled over the comms. "Thompson, Theros, we've identified the intruders. They're led by Colonel Hadrian Stone, a known human supremacist. He's taken control of the main weapons array." Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. He knew Stone by reputation, a brilliant tactician with a dangerously xenophobic worldview. "Admiral, we need to coordinate our response. Stone won't hesitate to use those weapons if he feels cornered." As they moved through the station, Thomas and Theros used their hybrid physiology to navigate areas flooded with radiation or exposed to the vacuum of space. They encountered pockets of resistance, Stone's followers, armed with advanced weaponry clearly of human design. In a maintenance shaft, they came across Dr. Jensen and Alex working feverishly on a console. "Thomas, Theros!" Dr. Jensen called out, her eyes lighting up. "We've been working with some Zithrian scientists. We think we've found a way to neutralize Stone's forces without casualties." Alex nodded excitedly. "It's a localized energy field that disrupts neural patterns. It'll knock them out without causing permanent damage." Thomas quickly grasped the implications. "That's brilliant. We need to get this to Admiral Hernandez immediately." As they formulated their plan, Theros suddenly stiffened, her antennae twitching rapidly. "Thomas, I'm picking up Stone's thoughts. He's planning to fire on the approaching diplomatic vessels. We have minutes at most." Thomas's mind raced, processing tactical data at superhuman speeds. "We need to split up. Theros, can you establish a telepathic link with the other species leaders? We need perfect coordination to pull this off." Theros nodded, her eyes closing in concentration. Thomas felt a surge of energy as their minds connected, along with the alien presences of Ventaxian, Zithrian, and other species leaders. Through this unprecedented mental network, Thomas outlined his plan. As the others moved to their positions, he turned to Dr. Jensen. "I need that device. I'm the only one who can get close enough to Stone to use it." Clutching the experimental device, Thomas navigated through the station's most dangerous sectors. His hybrid physiology allowed him to withstand levels of radiation that would be lethal to a normal human or Ventaxian. He could sense Stone's presence ahead, the man's thoughts a roiling mass of anger and misguided purpose. As Thomas entered the weapons control room, he saw Stone hunched over a console, fingers hovering over the launch controls. "It's over, Stone," Thomas called out, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Stone whirled around, his eyes widening at the sight of Thomas's altered appearance. "What? What have you become, Thompson? Can't you see this is all to protect humanity?" Thomas took a step forward, his hybrid senses alert for any sudden moves. "Humanity doesn't need protection, Stone. It needs allies. What you're doing here will doom us all." As Stone reached for his weapon, Thomas activated Dr. Jensen's device. A wave of energy pulsed through the room, and Stone collapsed to the floor, unconscious but unharmed. With the crisis averted, Thomas felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. He slumped against a console, his body trembling as another phase of genetic changes began to manifest. Theros's voice echoed in his mind, filled with concern and affection. "Thomas, are you all right? I'm feeling strange." As the station's system stabilized and the diplomatic talks resumed with renewed vigor, Thomas and Theros found themselves at the center of attention. Their actions during the crisis had demonstrated the potential of human-alien cooperation in the most dramatic way possible. Admiral Hernandez approached them, his expression solemn. "Thompson, Theros, the Galactic Council has reached a decision. They want to establish an interstellar academy here on the station, and they want you two to lead it." Thomas exchanged a glance with Theros, feeling the weight of this new responsibility. As they stood there, their bodies still adapting to the latest genetic changes, they realized that their journey was far from finished. The future of interstellar relations now rested in their hands, bringing with it challenges and opportunities beyond anything they could have imagined. As Thomas and Theros absorbed the enormity of Admiral Hernandez's words, the bustling activity of the station continued around them. Over the following weeks, the newly christened Interstellar Academy took shape. The station's vast halls, once eerily empty, now buzzed with life as students and researchers from dozens of civilizations arrived. Thomas and Theros found themselves at the center of this whirlwind of activity, their unique status as human Ventaxian hybrids, making them ideal bridges between cultures. One evening, as the station's day cycle dimmed to simulate night, Thomas and Theros stood in the main laboratory, overseeing a critical experiment on cross-species genetic compatibility. The room hummed with energy as scientists from various worlds worked in harmony, their diverse physiologies creating a vivid tableau of galactic cooperation. Suddenly, Thomas felt a surge of energy course through his body. Beside him, Theros stiffened, her antennae quivering. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them as their mental link deepened beyond anything they had experienced before. The world around them seemed to shift, revealing layers of energy fields permeating the station. Intricate patterns of light and color danced before their eyes, invisible to the other occupants of the lab. "Do you see that?" Thomas whispered, his voice barely audible. Theros nodded, her telepathic voice resonating in his mind. "It's beautiful, and there's something else. Can you feel it?" Together, they turned their enhanced perception towards a section of the station that had always registered as solid bulkhead on scans. Now they could perceive a complex series of shifting corridors hidden within the structure. Without a word, they left the lab, following the invisible path revealed by their newfound awareness. The other scientists, engrossed in their work, barely noticed their departure. Thomas and Theros navigated the hidden passages with uncanny precision, their movements perfectly synchronized. Each turn brought them closer to a pulsing source of energy that seemed to call out to them. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber that defied the known dimensions of the station. At its center stood a towering crystalline structure, pulsating with an inner light that responded to their presence. As they approached, the crystal flared brightly. A holographic projection filled the chamber, displaying a scene from the distant past. Human and Ventaxian figures, working side by side, turned to face Thomas and Theros. A human woman stepped forward, her voice echoing across time. "To those who have found this chamber, we offer greetings and hope. You stand in the nexus of a grand design, one of many stations seeded throughout the galaxy. A Ventaxian joined her, antennae twitching with excitement. Each installation houses unique technologies and knowledge, waiting to be rediscovered. Together, they form a network meant to foster peace and progress across civilizations. The human continued, "If you are seeing this message, it means our greatest hope has been realized, the reunification of our peoples and the dawn of a new era of cooperation." As the hologram faded, Thomas and Theros stood in awe, the implications of this discovery washing over them. They shared a look of dedication, knowing that this revelation would change everything. Theros reached out, her fingers intertwining with Thomas's. "We need to share this with the others," she said, her telepathic voice filled with excitement. Thomas nodded, squeezing her hand. "This changes everything. The Academy, the Alliance, it's all part of something much bigger than we realized." They made their way back through the hidden corridors, emerging into a main hallway bustling with activity. Thomas activated the station-wide communication system, his voice ringing out through every sector. "Attention all personnel and guests. This is Director Thomas Thompson. We have made a discovery of utmost importance. Please gather in the main auditorium immediately." As the station's inhabitants assembled, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. Species that had been at war mere months ago now sat side by side, united in their curiosity. Thomas and Theros stood on the stage, their hybrid physiology a living symbol of unity. Thomas began to speak, his voice steady and clear. "Today we have uncovered the true purpose of this station," he said, gesturing to the holographic display behind him, showing the hidden chamber. "It is part of a vast network, created by the original human Ventaxian alliance, meant to unite the galaxy." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience. Theros stepped forward, her telepathic abilities projecting a sense of calm and focus. "We have the opportunity to reconnect with other stations, each holding unique knowledge and technologies," she explained. "This network could revolutionize our understanding of the universe and our place within it." The revelation sparked a wave of enthusiasm. Scientists from various species began discussing potential modifications to the station's sensors, while diplomats debated the implications for interstellar politics. In the days that followed, Thomas led a team to adapt the station's long-range sensors, incorporating the unique energy signatures they had perceived in their hybrid state. Theros worked with a group of telepaths, combining their mental abilities to search for echoes of other stations across vast stretches of space. Their efforts paid off when they detected 3 additional stations in different sectors of the galaxy. The news electrified the entire station, and the newly formed Galactic Council quickly organized expedition teams. As preparations for these missions ramped up, Thomas and Theros found a rare moment of quiet in the station's arboretum. Surrounded by a vibrant collection of plant life from across the galaxy, they reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. Theros turned to Thomas, her purple skin shimmering in the artificial sunlight. "I never imagined my attempts to understand humans would lead to this," she said, her telepathic voice tinged with wonder. Thomas smiled, taking her hand in his. "And I never thought trying to bridge our cultural gap would change the course of galactic history," he replied. Their eyes met, and in that moment, their hybrid abilities synchronized perfectly. A vivid shared vision blossomed in their minds. A galaxy united, countless species working together to unlock the secrets of the universe. The image filled them with hope and renewed purpose. As the vision faded, Thomas felt a surge of emotion. He reached into his pocket, retrieving a small box he had been carrying for days, waiting for the right moment. Kneeling before Theros, he opened the box to reveal 2 identical rings, each crafted from a blend of earth metals and Ventaxian crystals. "Theros," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "will you join me in a lifelong partnership, both in our work and in our hearts?" Theros's antennae quivered with emotion as she processed the human gesture and her own deepening feelings. She responded both verbally and telepathically, her voice resonating with joy. "Yes, Thomas, in this life and beyond the stars." Their embrace was interrupted by the sound of applause. They turned to see a group of students and colleagues who had gathered at the Arboretum's entrance, drawn by the emotional surge they had sensed from the pair. News of their engagement spread rapidly through the station, sparking impromptu celebrations across every deck. Species that had once been bitter enemies now toasted to the union of a human and a Ventaxian, seeing in their love a symbol of hope for the future. As the first expedition ships prepared to launch, seeking out the newly discovered stations, Thomas and Theros stood hand in hand on the observation deck. They watched as the vessels disappeared into the vast expanse of space, carrying teams of diverse species united in purpose. Theros leaned her head on Thomas's shoulder, her antennae gently brushing his cheek. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" she asked, her telepathic voice filled with anticipation. Thomas nodded, squeezing her hand. "A new chapter for us and for the entire galaxy," he replied, his gaze fixed on the stars that held so much promise. As they stood there, united in love and purpose, Thomas and Theros knew that their journey was just getting started. The challenges ahead were immense, but together, they felt ready to face whatever the universe might throw their way.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.